Hi y'all, and welcome back to the Halloween Horror Extravaganza, yes. Today is the 6th episode. Last time we covered The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2 both in one episode, and this time we're going to be covering Blair Witch, the sequel to The Blair Witch Project, which I also reviewed in this extravaganza. I'll just start off by saying Blair Witch is definitely better than The Blair Witch Project. But Blair Witch does have its fair share of the cons and negatives, so I'm going to go ahead and get those out of the way first. There are now only 38 days till Halloween, which means we are a month and a week away, and yes, so excited. Okay, so let's talk Blair Witch. Blair Witch definitely has its fair share of cons and negatives, even though it is a lot better than the first movie. First of all, if you're not a fan of found footage movies, this one's not for you, so don't go see it. Second, I like found footage movies, but even in the first half of the movie, I got pretty tired of the shots that they use all the time where they were looking at something and they had to zoom in on every shot. I was like, girl, why do you keep zooming in? We didn't need that optical zoom on every single shot. So that bothered me, and I thought they were going to continue that through the whole movie, and I was like, this is going to ruin it for me. Whoa, there's a chair. Whoa, there's a character. Whoa, there's my wallet. Stop! The next thing that was a negative in this movie is that I didn't really care about half the characters, so when bad stuff starts happening to them, I'm like, okay. Overall, this movie just wasn't that exciting in any time where there was daylight. So it's kind of like the Blair Witch Project in that way. Okay, it's kind of a spoiler, so if you don't want spoilers, skip 15 seconds ahead and you'll be fine. Why did they have to make the death order so cliche? They're doing so good at at least making an original story. Why does the black have to die first? Again, why? You couldn't break from that one cliche, really. And the white girl's the last one standing, come on, switch it up a little bit, please. I just thought that was really surprising because the filmmakers did a pretty good job of making an original story, and then that was just so cliche and just overused, and I was like, wow. This movie is basically generic, run-of-the-mill found footage until half an hour until the end of the movie. At that point, shit gets real and the movie goes from, okay, I guess this is funnish to, holy shit, I would be crying, I'd be on the ground in the fetal position, bye. In the nighttime hours, this movie definitely gets a lot spookier, by a factor of 10 at least. It really reminded me of the horror video games that I love to play, where the characters in this movie have flashlights in their hand and they're swinging them around. You're like, ew, stop that, stop. Just really panning across the forest with their flashlight, stop. So even before the end of the movie, that was done really well. Anytime that it's nighttime in this movie is spooky. But the end is just the huge cherry on top of this cupcake horror fest, because our characters start losing their minds, much like the first movie, but in this one, it goes kind of a step further, I'd say. I don't want to spoil anything, but we'll just say it gets very, very real. In case you're wondering if they actually show the Blair Witch in this movie, yeah, they do. At the end of this movie, you finally get to see the Blair Witch herself a couple of times, itself, whatever it is. And boy, if you need nightmare fuel, here you go. On a platter. Merry Christmas. Merry Halloween. What I was really concerned about at the end of the movie actually was that they would show the witch too much and you would just see her full on and it would ruin everything, because if you've seen the movie Mama, for instance, the creature is really spooky until the end where she's just kind of out there and it's okay, there she is, it ruins the whole horror of it all. And I was really pretty scared that they were going to do this at the end of this movie, but thank God they didn't. They showed her just enough for it to be freaky, and for that I give the filmmakers major props, because that takes a lot of restraint, where a lot of movies will just be here's the creature, be scared of it. This one is did you see that shit? You might not have, but that's creepy. Whatever's hiding behind those woods, whatever's creeping back behind the trees over there, that shit is freaking horrifying. Everything that was done really well about this movie has to do with the fear of being in the woods at night. Oh, there's one more negative. At the very end of the movie, I don't want to spoil anything, but the very last choice that one of the main characters makes, I was like, girl, you just saw that that's gonna certainly lead to your demise. Why would you go and repeat the exact same thing that your friend did? Just thought about that, had to throw that back in there. In the theater, I was actually getting really hungry and I was kind of cold too, so when they're in the forest, I felt like I was in the woods too, starving in the middle of the woods with them a little bit. That's kind of dramatic, but same sort of concept. Blair Witch is slow to start, like a lot of found footage horror movies, but at the end, it is freaky as hell. I think it spends too much time being slow for me to give it a really high score, but after leaving the theater, I was pretty set on what my rating for Blair Witch was gonna be, but then I was thinking about it all night and it was actually starting to freak me out, while I was in bed, and I was like, It's just that kind of brand of disturbing, original, spookiness, and it worked so well that I was thinking about it long after leaving the movie. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Blair Witch a very solid 7.5 out of 10. So, there's the 7th movie in our hashtag Halloween Horror Extravaganza. Blair Witch was far spookier than the first movie, I can tell you that much. The weirdo guy and girl we meet at the beginning of the movie were kind of serving me some Jurassic Park 3 parents pretending to know their way around the island when they really have no idea where the hell they're at.